Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in discovering one more Chinese expression a day. Yesterday, we came across a very, very good compliment, and I think every man or even woman would love to have this use on themselves, which is 智勇双全, means you're both intelligent and you have the physical, you're a fighter and also scholar, like both. It's almost like a Renaissance man in a Western concept, right? Like even Renaissance man, I'm not sure, like, is the Renaissance man expected to be a good fighter as well? I thought Renaissance man is just person who are well trained in all disciplines. But here on the two dimensions of human intelligence and human courage or bravery, if you have both, that's double win, right? So that's double complete. Today we have the double complete again. Instead of 智勇, we have another expression that's super good. Like as somebody who set out to have a family, to raise a family, you would prefer to have this at least this mode of family, which you have both son and daughter. Doesn't matter how many of them in each category, but at least you have both genders of children of yours. And that's considered super good. That's double good, double complete again. Okay. 儿女双全. 儿 came from this sign. It's a little bit like a wave or letter R, right? But open R and with kind of thumbs up. That's one rendering of R. So R basically scholars have to imagine like what make them children or child. This is a child generic, specifically like son. It's not a 女儿. It's not because we use 女儿 to specify, kind of like in English as well, in this politically correct sensitive era, that if you say an actor, and we have an actor and actress to show that's a different, right? Different gender, not expected. Not exactly exact. Okay, I guess actor actress is not a good representation because acting or drama, all that plays is a reflection of life. So you got to have both genders. There's nothing extraordinary to have actress in there, except like the ancient, the actual players on stage are mostly male, right? Okay. In science, if you're outstanding in performance, in some introduction, because scientist is genderless, there is no scientist test, right? There is no like actress kind of gender label within that word. So we have to use another word to describe a female scientist. And when you say a female scientist, that implies it's not expected. That implies you have the bias. That implies you're stereotyping and not politically correct, right? So similarly in Chinese, we can use 儿. Mostly it's a standard mode. It's applied to son. But we also say 女儿 to add a qualifier. Like a 女 is an additional element, kind of like a scientist, right? We have to add it's a female scientist, therefore it's a daughter in a similar fashion. Okay, long enough about that. Okay, 儿. So according to some scholars, this, almost like looking like this fancy shape is children who, humans, a generic humans, 2 legs standing being. 2 legs standing is a standard setup. But when somebody have kind of hair like that, it means it's not well groomed yet. It's kind of free to be not judged by adult standard. So they can have fun, they can laugh, they can make jokes, they can play pranks. They have a lot of extra allowance being children. So I guess that kind of trying to capture their playfulness in this 2 standing being, but they're playful 2 standing being. Okay, that's my interpretation now. Okay, 女儿 is more tangible because this is kind of visual depiction of folded hand in the front, right? And a little bit curve over here. And again, curve is kind of universal because humans were not stiff. The legs can fold. You have, I mean, not you, we have many knuckles, right? Knuckles and joints on our body. So we're not stick figures, basically. So this is another rendering of how nu was depicted in a different preserved media, like a bronze carving or turquoise carving or something harder to dissolve over time. So this was preserved as another way to render nu. And you can see almost like this portion kind of look like the feet standing up. And here is the knee bending down and the hand folded in front, yeah, the same. And here is almost like a collarbone, and this tiny stick is the head representation. So basically it's a human anatomy, mostly the structure, the limbs part, and how nu was supposed to behave, which is folded and also kneeling position with the feet like that. So no Chinese woman do that nowadays. I wasn't trained to do that either. Like I didn't know that's a behavioral expectation of women, or at least a daughter. But in Japanese culture, you may be able to see that. Traditionally, their way of sitting is to sit on their heels. And this is exactly that. This is the butt, this is the heel, sitting on their heels with the knees bent. And they can eat their dinner, whole sitting session, like half an hour at least, sitting like that. It's out of habit, and it's also trained. Like Westerners probably cannot even have their knees bent like that. I'm not sure, but at least that's like uncomfortable position for people who are not used to that. But then we know, okay, from this character, we can tell that used to be the expectation of women doing that to show submission. And I had something learned just by checking out this female character. Nu, in today's contemporary Chinese, we use that simply as a female. So if you see bathroom, say, bathroom sign, we have nan and nu. Nan is the one with the power sign. Power underneath field. So field, farm field, power. That's the definition of nan. Nu is this definition of this behavior definition, to be super submissive, folded, right? That's nu expectation symbol. So nan nu becomes this gender symbol in contemporary Chinese. But when checking out this nu symbol, I was told, okay, this nu actually means unmarried woman. It's not all women. It doesn't apply across age and different conditions, marital conditions. Once you're married, you consider the fu, which is nu plus a duster. So domestic labor expectation, very clearly laid out. So not only you're expected to be submissive, right? Just like before you get married, but after marriage, you're expected to clean the house, to do the house cleaning work. Interesting, right? So nu, ancient Chinese expect that to be, they're not holding the dusters yet, so they are unmarried, but they have their behavior expectations like that. That's and nu. In contemporary Chinese, when we say son, because Chinese, we have to pair two, I mean, most of the times we pair two characters together to make it definitive. Otherwise, we just floating one it's hard to tell what exactly you mean. It could be infant, it could be son, could be male. It's hard to tell. So we sometimes plug in another one that I have an episode about an intro course of a course about a crash course of Chinese. Of my theory of Chinese have to pair, it's contextual. They have to pair at least the two characters to pin down the meaning, because otherwise they're floating like this. They have a spoke of meanings. You don't exactly know which one. And they have to contextualize mutually two of them to lock into a fixed meaning. So son in Chinese, in contemporary Chinese, we say 儿子 paired with that baby figure, and nu would pair flip over. We have 女儿, that means daughter. So there you go. But when we intentionally say 儿女 instead of saying 女儿, because 女儿 it sounds just like daughter. When you place 儿 in front of 女, then you know, okay, that means son and this means daughter, both genders, double complete. So now I have a new understanding of this 双全. So 双全, okay, before you ever have your first child, you probably have some expectation of what gender of your child is. It's like your preference, right? So once you have that, it's considered complete, mission complete. You have one child of any gender. And then 双全, it means now you have on the bar of, okay, one gender complete, now you have another gender in two categories of children classified by gender. In that dimension, you have a double complete, double finish line. That's 双全. So 智勇双全 also in that sense, like in terms of intelligence, you better check that one off. In terms of action figure or bravery, you better check that one off. But most of us are somewhat semi-completed on this two bar, this progression bar. We may be 50% average intelligence or even smaller on the bravery dimension. So we're not complete in that standard. So 双全 means both are max out the bar. That means that's the best of humankind in terms of those two human qualities. Okay, so that's 儿女双全. And here is a little bit of stats for your amusement. 儿女双全, if it's in the Chinese language, that means Chinese culturally is encouraging this. Even if China went through this ridiculous one-child policy era for a few decades, that kind of changed dramatically the concept of having children, raising a family, what kind of a family, the mode of the family. It becomes like, okay, you either landed on one gender or the other. You cannot have both genders completed. You cannot have a two-bar completion. You're only allowed to have one bar there. Never 双全under one-child policy, right? Okay, so now, looking at this phrase, 儿女双全, that is the expectation of how you ideal family have both the son and the daughter, at least one of each gender. And that's considered you have both bars completed. That's the ideal. And okay, so some stats from 1970 all the way to 2021 of the family composition. Okay, 1970 because it's several decades ago. So the bars here distribution is a lot more different than now. And you can see here it's pacing like 5 years apart, right? 5 years apart until 2009. It starts to just 1 year apart every year. And that's why here it's kind of looking the same, but in the long run, like 5 years apart stride, then you see a bigger bar, shifting. Basically, that means one person, this lowest blue columns are rising, single person household, it's on the rise. And then 2-person means married couple or single parenthood, it's on the rise here as well. Versus the bigger family households. These are the 3-person means couple with one child, or 4-person in the red color, which is possibly maybe 50% of chance. I don't even know what's the chances. Okay, so the chances, yes, the chances of having 儿女双全 when you have 2 children, right? Just by the probability, right? First child. Okay, 儿女双全 combination, you can have double son, double daughter, or son-daughter combination, right? If you have 2 children, and then the 2 children, 2 genders complete is 50% of chances out of this 3 box. The reason is, okay, the first I don't want to go into details, about 50% of the chance you have son-daughter completion. So we have to cut that 儿女双全 out of like half of this block, have this meeting this ideal. And of course, the green and other bars, smaller boxes of bars, which is 5, 6, and 7, bigger household, you have a bigger chance, right, to have both genders complete. We can calculate that, but at least it's at least half of this red color block have to cut out because that's not 儿女双全 family. And we can see only a very tiny, almost like a 25%. In today's standard, less than 25% of households reached the double 双全 standard of both genders children you have in your household. And how amazing is that? Because why it is ideal? Because it's not that easy to achieve. I guess in ancient times when I have multi-shots at having children, it's easier to achieve. But in today's world, especially post one-child policy ridiculousness world, still like it's 儿女双全, both genders is very smaller chance per the current state, 2021. This is in America, okay? So US households, it's less than 25% of chance. Okay, cash interconceived thinking by one word a day. See you another day.